Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Greg Eckel. This is What the Health. Today's topic is hidden toxins that are quickly destroying your ability to focus, sexual performance, joint health, weight loss, etc. Do I have your attention? I have Warren Phillips, MS, the non-toxic dad. He's developed a social movement that educates individuals to choose non-toxic lifestyles. A passionate and energetic individual, which you will find out in a moment. He lives by his words and works tirelessly to educate the world about avoiding and removing toxins. Non-toxic dad has reached and impacted over 100,000 million people in the last year. That's a big number there, Warren.
It's 100 million.
It is 100 million.
Surprisingly, I can't believe it. It's beautiful.
I mean, I like the 100,000 million, which would be kind of a billion, but
we're going to get there. We're going to get there, Greg.
I love it. I love it. During the first 9+ years of his career, Warren worked as a published scientist and environmental consultant, which really brings the reality of this environmental toxicity that we're going to talk about. The impact of heavy metals on human health and on the environment. This work exposed him to these toxins, and he eventually fell ill with an unexplainable illness. The symptoms, including chronic pain, weight gain, and anxiety, were so severe that he struggled to find a reason to live, but he refused to give up on himself. After exploring alternative and natural methods of heavy metal detox, dietary changes, cellular support, and restoring his health, Warren became ignited with a passion for helping others facing their similar challenges. For the past 18 years, Warren has empowered health practitioners, health experts, and the public through education, podcasts, and events. Now living in Utah with his wife and 3 young daughters, he is grateful for his family's support as he continues this mission to help others choose a non-toxic lifestyle. Welcome aboard, Warren.
It's great to be here, Dr. Greg. You met my beautiful little girls and my wife when we did some energy work and some sound bathing.
Oh, yes.
At your clinic, and that was just honored. Had such a good time, and it's neat to see the work that you're doing, and it's awesome to share what we got going on and see if we can help some folks avoid some of these toxins that may be unaware of. I mean, they're definitely robbers. They definitely take. They're not light. They're dark.
So. Yeah, these are it's real, right? I mean, as a naturopathic physician, I was charged with addressing the root cause of illness, and oftentimes that comes from our environment, and we're totally aligned with the work that you're doing with Non-Toxic Dad. I wonder if you wanted to share just the mission and why you do what you do. I mean, a bit was in your bio, but let's hear it from you.
Well, I got sick. So, obviously when something bad happens to you, right, you can take that energy and people talk about this in psychology, but energy is energy, right? And you can label it as a positive or negative or put a neutral on it. For a long time, I did have a negative, towards my health. But once I realized that I found the answer to my unexplainable illness, I took all that negative energy, and this happens to all of us, or teachers that tell us that we're not good enough, and it's still energy, right?
Yeah.
And we can choose what to do with that energy. And it's great to be on podcasts like this and in today's environment, and to meet people that are full of love and light like you. You have an extra special gifting when it comes to that. So I like being around people like you, honestly, because I want to be more like you. I want to have more of a tender heart as I age, right? And you've worked on that and have gotten there through all of your challenges. It's softened your heart. It's made you closer to God. It's given you a bigger mission. And I feel that's what's happened to me. When I got sick and then found the answers, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a bigger mission. This is what God intended me to do. And I did. I was a prayerful man. I became a very humbled man. I learned so much about spirituality, about life, about not judging, about how things work, and this human experience that we're all having together on this planet. And it's one that we need to help each other and speak life into each other, and give us all the opportunity to enjoy this gift on this planet, which is each other and the animals and the trees and the plants. And
Yeah.
there's just so much good for us to enjoy. And instead of seeing things through that negative lens. But when I was sick, guys, everyone listening, I did not have that lens. When toxins were darkening out the soul of my spirit, my mental capacity, my hormonal capacity, all those areas were not working properly. We were just talking about mitochondria. My mitochondria health, the dysfunction I had in my cells, the darkness in my cells from toxins, from things that didn't belong in my body, things that creation and God and the universe and source did not create, as you talked about source earlier. Those things aren't meant to be on our bodies. These are toxins that interfere with our light. They interfere with the opportunities to give and love. And when you see that taken from a soul like myself, and then you have an opportunity to give it back, of course, you are going to run head over heels towards individuals and this information. That's why it was surprising that people, to me, didn't know this information. And that when I start sharing it, when people challenge me to share what I knew over my journey of 18 years of removing toxins from the sources of toxins into my life and removing toxins from my body and working with great practitioners like you, that my life came back online and they said, you need to share this. And so that message over the last year has grown to impact hundreds of millions soon, I'm sure, as the butterfly effect worked. But we keep saying that number. Now you've embedded a destiny in this, is to affect more people and to just get them to choose a non-toxic lifestyle. These little shifts that you can make ultimately can make big impacts in your life. And you could be wasting a lot of time, money, thought, and resources on things. Just, get rid of the fragrances out of your life. Find that mold problem in your home. Like, these are some of the big needle movers, as you talked about. These environmental toxins are robbing. And so that's why I'm so passionate about this, because I lost everything, right? And you've had major loss in your life. And to get it back, I'm so thankful and grateful to be able to share with this audience and any audience on the planet about toxicity, because it is real. And remove it, you do get results.
It's amazing. I mean, this is a basic tenet of removing obstacles to cure. So many people don't realize the soup that they're swimming in, or the level or extent. They just think, like, look, the products are on the market, they must be safe.
Yeah, that's the scary part, because that comes down to marketing and price point, and we can get into the addiction when it comes to fragrances. Fragrances are engineered to be addictive. Natural flavors, some even natural flavors, but definitely artificial flavors engineered to be addictive, right? The plastic industry, like, all of this is low cost, high profit, greenwashing at the highest level. I'm just shooting and studying a video on green cleaning products. There's a new 2023 and 2024 study talking about how green products are toxic, right? The customer says it's green, it's good for the environment, it must be good for me, it's not going to harm me. How many of us think that? I used to think that, oh, this is green, so it's not destroying the fish, it's definitely clean for me. And I cared at one point more about the environment than I did my own health, it's kind of mind-boggling that you would think that, but we do, because we care so deeply about the environment. But that connection is made, but it's a true disconnect. We believe that that's safe. We believe that silver amalgam fillings are safe. We believe that these medications are safe. They have to be. Triple blind study, it's the science, all these placebo trial, like, it's human nature. And human nature either can evolve and become better, or it will move down another path of where it becomes worse. And we have a portion of the world that's using toxic stuff, marketing it is safe, and calling it fear mongering, and using every excuse not to be responsible to humanity in order to line their pockets. And some points, you have to remember this, Dr. Greg, is that at some level, sometimes they do believe their own brainwashing, right? So they're not intentionally being evil. They're believing their own lies based on their own experiences, based on the own things that are keeping their families fed, maybe overfed at some level. And these lies become truth to them because they lie to themselves. And we know that because of toxicity and toxic relationships and toxic self-talk. We brainwash ourselves. We convince ourselves to believe something, right? And so here's a great example. There's lots of multi-level marketers out there, and I'm going to come after you a little bit. And I nothing against multi-level marketing, but you get into essential oils, right? And at first you got them and you kind of use them, but then you start getting a paycheck, right? And the promotion of those oils are taking care of your family. Now I'm giving a good example versus medications, right? So this is a true comparison, but then you notice that you're making money and people getting results. But then after you start making more money, the more you promote these oils, and maybe you might be overselling what these things can actually do for humans. I use essential oils, but when there's an economic gain, you're human, been guilty, right, of doing the
Yeah.
same thing. So this is human nature. And then we oversell something that might not be the best for humanity, right? It might not be the best. There might be some other solutions. We might be overusing aspirin, right? We might be overusing pain meds. We might be overusing essential oils, but there's an economic gain. So don't think just because you're not a doctor, the MD that's pushing the drug for an economic gain for his position, his family, his life. Natural health practitioners, natural health experts, MLM marketers, we do the same shit, right? We
Yeah.
do it too. So you have to check your ego at the door. It's really hard to do. We got to dig deeper and not blame, because we do the same stuff they do. So it's not about blame. It's about thinking from a heart-centered perspective, maintaining integrity, your values, the core beliefs. And guys, I'm a work in progress, and Greg, I know you are too. So
Oh yeah.
long answer.
I love it. No, that component in the dichotomy, there is no us and them. We're pretending to be separate in this reality, and it is only us. It's one entity with 1,000,000,000 different faces. And the earth is our home, and we have one planet, and there is really one people here, right? That's earth, and it's earth inhabitants. That's who lives here. And
there's no getting around that, bro.
there's no way around it. Like they're like
Elon's trying. He's
yeah.
trying, but he's
No,
not
well,
there yet.
really, and this is a component, and maybe this is way off topic, but I've been on the show talking about, you're under the influence of propaganda when you start othering others or the environment or those people or the reds or the blues or, the northerners, whatever the other people are. Maybe you got to tune back in, get back in touch with your heart and yourself and your source, because nobody should be in there other than you. You have direct connect, and that's where more and more we're going to need to be there. And then you layer chemicals on top of that, which then cloud our thinking. They make us fatigued, they separate us, they make us ill, they don't give us energy. Where are you seeing what are some big maneuvers that somebody could do in their life to kind of take some of the toxin burden away from themselves and their family?
And that's it's a loaded question, because you're talking to the non-toxic dad that loves removing toxins from his life. I
Yeah.
find it enjoyable and fun and not fearful. Like, there's some minor toxins that you can avoid, right? And I do those, but they're not the big needle movers. So let's talk about the big needle movers. As a practitioner, if there's a sick person watching this that's really sick and you have a mouthful of amalgam fillings, you need to go to a physician or get a referral from a physician's clinic like yours and say, hey, look, here's someone who knows how to do it correctly. If you can't afford it, there's places overseas now that you can get it done safely, and they're great too, right? So there's ways to get those out. That's crazy amounts of neurotoxins. So I can tell you to watch nickel exposure in my stainless steel videos, from scratching and scraping your stainless steel or avoiding high nickel foods, and I can get down in the minutia. But if you have over 1,000, it's well over 1,000. The number might even be bigger than that, but I know for a fact it's over 1,000 times the EPA air quality standard. When you drink with one amalgam filling, a cup of hot coffee, or chew on something, is exceeding by 1,000 times. We would shut down, schools for a month or a year or indefinitely if we had those kind of particle numbers of mercury or a reading of mercury in the air. Like, oh my gosh, this is the worst environmental disaster that we've ever experienced on XYZ spill or at XYZ school or at XYZ hazardous waste cleanup, right? But
Yeah.
yet it's safe. It's hazardous waste before it goes in. It's hazardous waste and treated as such as hazardous waste when it leaves your mouth. Has to go to a special hazardous waste landfill, has to have a toxicity characterization leaching procedure done, which I used to do on toxic hazardous waste so that I
Right.
could characterize it, document it from cradle to grave is what the EPA wants from you. That's what's going in your mouth. So that's a big one, right? That's a big
Yeah.
needle mover. Now, the non-toxic dad and, there's all kinds of fun things to do, right? Some of the big ones that are easy to move out of your life, anything that has fragrance or chemical fragrance, I find that those are one of the biggest neurotoxins that are causing brain inflammation, brain fog, like you said, from like
Yeah.
understanding and from thinking clearly and having energy, and it just really fatigues you and it fatigues your thinking. I don't know for sure. I haven't read the research, but I almost feel like it's hurting your prefrontal cortex, your reasoning skills. Now, alcohol does that too, right? It can affect that. You got something here for me.
Before you move on, the non-fragrant, the fragrance, like what is it with kind of the ride shares with the air fresheners? Those folks are driving with like 5 to 6 of those
Oh my
in their
gosh.
car. And I feel like I'm on a personal campaign, one Uber and Lyft driver at a time. Like, do you realize you're jeopardizing your health and your family's health with these things hanging right next to your head all day long? Like, I don't want them. They make me sick. I have to roll down all of the windows.
Yeah,
And
that's a procedure I have to do too.
yeah, can we start
I've
a
had them
campaign?
cancel on me before, right? So I
Yeah.
write them. I said, please take all. I'm highly allergic to fragrances. Please put all air fresheners and Christmas trees and put them in your glove compartment or throw them away. Can you do that for me, please? Or I can't, come
In
on.
the
And
car.
most of the time they say that's no problem, and they do that. But I've had them say, I can't give you a ride. And now here's the thing. When you walk in there and they're gone, it's penetrated every orifice of that
Yeah.
car.
Yeah.
You'll leave, go into your
Still
house,
smelling
and
it.
that
Yeah.
t-shirt is still going to smell like chemical fragrance. And it'll smell like that for the next 10 years,
Yeah.
just from being in the presence of an air freshener that's put away. That's how strong these chemicals are. And they're destroying your neurology. They're
Yeah.
neurotoxins. They're toxic to your neurology. There's tons of research on it. Notorious toxins, hazardous waste. These are hormone disrupting. They
Yeah.
contain phthalates as a carrier oil. Like, these things are nasty and should be pulled off the market. And our job, right? I
Yeah.
believe, and I do tell every Uber driver like you. So you're a non-toxic,
Too.
you're part of the non-toxic lifestyle. Like, when you're
Yes.
really cheering on, you do it in a nice way, just like, did you
Yes.
know? And then you
Well,
watch their nonverbals, and you're
yeah.
just like, my daughter, I was speaking at an event, my brother-in-law's event, actually, Dr. Isaac Jones, and we were in a car, and I took a picture and put it on there, and my daughter's like swimming in her seat because she knows I have to say something, right? This isn't like the Diet Coke thing too. You should drink regular Coke. I don't do that as
Yeah.
much as I used to. I really am more sensitive,
Mhm.
because it's almost like when you first find faith of any nature, right?
Right.
You're gung ho. Yeah,
Proselytizing. Right.
but you start to realize, to be effective, it's like, it's about that person. It's not about your agenda. It's about, how can I help this individual and how can
Yeah.
I educate them? And so, but I did it in a nice way. I'm like, did you know, just ask them questions. And if they kind of blow it off, I move on. So
Yeah.
there you go.
That's
Chemical fragrances.
how I handle it as well. It's
Yeah.
really around like, hey, I'm a physician and I do a lot with environmental medicine. And did you know about these things? And I would say 9 out of 10 times they're like, whoa, I had no idea. I said, just look it up. You do your own research on it. But I just tell you, like, it's a big deal. And I don't really, we need to get those out of here or away for this ride. And I think that, a lot of folks, it isn't like, hey, you're a bad person because you're toxing out the environment and me. It's really more the curiosity. So I love that. And I want to get curious about alcohol because that's where you were going next.
Yeah. I didn't want to go there, but now I'm going to go there because
Yeah.
I feel like I drank a little bit, Greg, when I go to an event or whatever, and
Yeah.
there's free alcohol, and you almost feel like you have to have a drink because you're paying, a lot of money to be
Yeah.
at some of these events to,
Yeah.
to meet people and to learn and to grow. But then you go to these events and you see all these health practitioners, if it's a health event, and these people are getting trashed, right?
Yeah.
And I haven't at most events. I probably stopped 4 years ago drinking at events, maybe at like a small glass of wine or something. And because what I realized is I couldn't connect with other humans. So we can get into the toxicity of alcohol, but I lost human connection. And
Mm,
probably about 4 years ago, I'm like, I spent all this time, effort, and to get here. I leave my family. I start adding up the value I
yeah.
could gain and what I was losing and what I was exchanging. I was exchanging time for my beautiful girls. And when you become a father and you age, you start to think this way. So if you're 25 watching this, you may not think this way, and you can get slammed and you still have a good time and you wake up in the morning. God bless you, right?
Yeah.
Um, but time and age and all that happens, right? Even if your mitochondria are firing well and your detox pathways are good. But I looked at it from an energy expenditure. I wanted to connect with humans, and I noticed that I couldn't connect as well. I was tired. I was more fatigued. I couldn't look people in the eye. I had these toxicity symptoms, not being able to look people in the eye, and
Mm,
fatigue. These are toxicity symptoms, right?
yeah.
So I didn't want to lose that human connection, because the fun, the value, the energy exchange through human connection, and being able to feel someone else's heart and hear their story, that's worth it to me, right? It's
Mm,
worth gaining what I've lost by leaving and traveling and exposing myself to toxins in a hotel. There's all this stuff. So
right.
why would I just dilute my experience and dilute my connection over alcohol? You do not have deeper conversations. You might be more honest. You might tell more lies. You might make bad decisions. You might hurt somebody, right? Or like some of my friends and your friends, if you have a dedicated spouse, you might cheat on them,
Mm,
because your frontal lobe is really shut
uh,
down,
yeah.
right? And
Not
then you're the
working.
consequences of that, right? So all that to say, scientific, Warren over here, I was like, not gonna do it. Then over time, watching influencers, being on podcasts, you learn that alcohol ages you. It hurts your mitochondria. It causes cellular inflammation at a very high level, right? When you're
Yeah.
talking about a major toxin, you're talking about anti-aging, you're talking about lengthening your telomere lengths and doing all this fun biohacking, but then you're drinking,
Yeah.
right? And so you're negating a lot of the good work and the expense. So you just really can't justify that. For me, it just, if you're not congruent, we can't have these powerful conversations where love and light is flowing through,
Yeah.
the camera, and people are hearing the tonality in our voice and the nonverbals. And there's just this explosion of information that's actually life changing.
Yeah.
But how can you do that when I'm reading the research? I'm
Yeah.
listening to other experts.
Yeah, with a dulled receptor. I mean,
Yeah.
the more into the preciousness of the receptor, which is the body, we don't want to put things in that dim or diminish the receptivity. And, that is a component where I come from a long line of alcoholics. My mother died when she was young at 54. That's how old I am now. It's like, whoa, this is really young to leave your body off the planet. Her dad died of alcoholism. And, it was self-medication of a family lineage, Warren. And so we have to look at that substance in particular when we're talking to the non-toxic dad, and a non-toxic environment is like, okay, are we willingly putting that in? I think there's moderation and moderation.
Yeah, I
And
mean, if so, here's the thing: non-toxic dad. Me personally, maybe I've had one glass of wine in the last 9 months, right? Just a
yeah,
small glass at an Italian restaurant, clean,
yeah, yeah,
whatever. And it was okay. That if
yeah,
I go to Italy because I'm getting my Italian citizenship and I go to Italy, am I going to have a glass of wine? Probably. Am I
yeah,
going to get loaded ever again? I highly doubt it,
yeah,
right? I
yeah,
mean, there's never say never. So I'm not judging
right.
you. Like, I don't want that to come off. It's like, yeah, you can't live a non-toxic lifestyle. No, I
No,
got healthy, right?
yeah,
By doing a lot of things right. And guess what I started doing when I got healthy? I started drinking again because I couldn't drink.
Yeah.
18 years
As
ago.
a treat, right?
Because
Yeah.
I was so sick, I couldn't process it. So I'm like, I got it back. I can have vodka and lime juice, right? And I was excited. And at some level, at small amounts, it messes with, I don't know if it's NMDA receptors, but some pathway in the brain. I can't remember. It might be NMDA. This is
Sure.
outside of my expertise, but I remember reading the study, and when it shut off this neuro pathway, it actually got rid of brain fog. So I remember a small amount
Yeah.
of alcohol actually felt a little bit better. So I
Yeah.
did use it as kind of like as a medication
Yeah.
back in the day. And I think a lot of people do that. Like I think they do medicate. And I get it. Like there's been seasons in my life where I desired alcohol, right? I desired that feeling. But as a human, like I was like, ooh, that's not good. But it
Right.
wasn't enough to get me to stop. But what I realized in the research, why did I have that feeling? Is because, and this is the important part, if you're listening to this, the alcohol does, if you're drinking regularly, does affect your prefrontal cortex, right? Right? Prefrontal cortex. What's that? What's the initial prefrontal cortex?
PFC.
FC. Yeah. That's the buzzword going on. And it takes about 9 months for that to heal so that you can actually have even the ability to say no, right?
Yeah.
And not feel guilty about it because you'll justify it. You're just like a little kid or a baby at this point, or someone who's 18 years old, because your prefrontal cortex is now dimmed.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's the challenge. So when you start
Yeah.
reading that stuff, that's how it took a long time for me to understand that completely. So that's why it's near and dear to my heart. I'm passionate about it. I'm never going to judge,
Yeah.
right? Because I know how you're being marketed to about it. You're being lied to. You're being pressured into it. There's social
There's a
pressure.
culture
There's a
component. Yeah.
culture around it in
It's
America. It's
weighted
around
and
football
loaded.
games. It's
Yeah.
around going out to dinner, like all the things
Yeah.
that we think are important to go do to enjoy our lives because we're showing up to work every day. And then we're getting lucky enough that we can afford now to go out to dinner and have a glass of wine. And we feel like we've arrived because we can do that. Like, I get it.
Yep.
Guilty, right? And I'm
Yeah.
not saying there's anything wrong with that path, but the
Yeah.
non-toxic lifestyle, if you truly want to ascend to a different place where you're healthier and happier, and it's all things. It's emotional toxicity. There's lots of nasty spiritual toxicity that's keeping us
Mhm.
locked into experiencing life, and then the physical toxins like an alcohol would be,
Yeah.
right? So there's lots of, that's why it's so fun, because the learning never stops, Dr. Greg. It just
Yeah.
never stops, and it's fun and it's exciting, and you're still making mistakes every day, but you're learning every day and you're able to improve each and every day. I'm still learning massively, more so
Oh,
now
yeah.
than ever, because now I got people sending me stuff. I got podcasts to prepare for. Like you never would have thought that, like who would have thought 2 years ago or 3 years ago when we were talking that I'd even, I was helping practitioners, right?
Right.
Learn how to
Right.
detox. Who would have thought that, I'd be here today. So, life has a way of coming around, I guess.
It really does. And it is fun and it's exciting to see. And I love what you're doing here. I'm wondering, here at the kind of the end of our interview for today, and I'd love to have you back in the future because there's so many facets of this conversation to have. What's next for Non-Toxic Dad?
Well, we have some really big things that we're working on. We're definitely looking to increase our reach. I'm doing a lot more. I have some big podcasts that I'm doing. I'm flying to LA this Thursday I don't know when this will air, but I'm speaking at the Biohack Your Beauty event
Awesome.
on a podcast with Squints from and Brian Goldstein. I can't think of Squint's real name, but Squints is from the movie Sandlot. Remember him? They have a pretty good podcast, and I've been asked to go on some big podcasts out in Las Vegas. So I don't like to travel that much just because
Yeah.
the family thing. But we're also releasing a docuseries like we were discussing,
Yes.
Homesick Home, right? I think you've heard of that, right?
Yes.
Pedram and I are launching that together. Pedram's a good friend of yours.
Yeah.
So we have that launching in April. You can probably register for free now, and we'll remind you, but at homesickhome.com. So we have that going on.
We'll help get the word out on that because
Yeah.
this is really well aligned with what we're doing at Energy for Life Centers and What the Health. This platform is really just getting the message out, having people share with their loved ones. If you heard something in today's show, please share it with some friends, 2 or 3 friends. Give us a review. 5 stars make a difference. Like the video, subscribe to our channel. Let's get this word out, because it's not coming from the top down. It's coming here heart to heart in this kind of sharing environment. We try to have some fun with it too.
Yeah.
But there's a lot on the line when we're talking about our health. It's almost as if being healthy is now a radical act.
It's true.
Yeah.
You get shamed for being healthy, right? You get labeled just like any other labeling that happens today, and
Yeah.
then it creates separation. And that's what I love about you, Dr. Greg, and what you're doing on this show, because I know your heart is so sensitive to, like, we don't want to create, the unhealthy and the healthy, or the
Right.
toxic and the non-toxic. As a matter of fact, I'm very close with people. Like, one of my friends, she calls herself Toxic Mom, because she loves her Yankee candles and her Tide things and
Yeah.
bounce dryer sheets, and she loves all these modern conveniences, and she smokes and she drinks, and she's the most amazing mom, amazing human on the planet. And I'm not going to change her, right? Maybe
Right.
she, although she is making some changes, because she's bright, she's like,
Yeah.
maybe I can give that up. So she is
Maybe I get a
less
little
toxic
curious.
mom,
Yes.
but
Less
she's like,
toxic
yeah,
mom.
she's a less toxic mom, but she's like, you're
LTM.
full of shit, I'm not doing
Yeah.
that. And I love
Well,
her just the same. So I
yeah.
just want to make sure that everybody knows that we love you just the same, no matter what lifestyle that you're choosing, or what you're doing, or the toxins that you're choosing to allow into your life right now. Because I believe in the future, as we all just do what we're called to do and share it in a positive, loving environment, we're going to all have a lot of fun, because there's some wisdom that you have to share. Maybe I'm raising parents, I'm raising your children, or some areas that I'm struggling with, because I definitely want to learn in that area, that you could share with me, especially like Toxic Mom. She raises a great family, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
She might not be the most non-toxic, but she's doing a lot of other things right in her life. So celebrate the things you're doing right in your life, everybody. And Dr.
Yeah.
Greg, you're doing a great job
Love
by
it.
sharing this podcast with the world.
Thank you, Warren. Any last parting messages for our listeners and
I
viewers?
think I just did. I think
I
that
think
was the
so.
last
I
something.
think so too. I didn't want to
I
cut
went
you
out of
off,
order.
give you another little opportunity, but that's great. I think
No.
that was it. I think more love, if we summarize, keep your hearts open, and let's see if we can lighten each other's loads out there. Because altogether, our brilliance as people and the evolving of us, the entity, is as it should be. And it's really exciting to watch. So, everybody, thank you for tuning in. We wouldn't be here without you. And we will see you next time on What the Health.
Amen. See you guys.